A desperate chance. Jenna Morrison checked her reflection one last time in the elevator mirror. The borrowed blazer from Ruby fit perfectly, making her look professional despite the sleepless night. Her 8-month-old son Miles had been fussy, with teething pain, and the dark circles under her eyes told that story clearly. The elevator dinged at the 20th floor, opening to reveal Horizon Tech Solutions. One of Chicago's fastest-growing companies, this job meant everything. It meant health insurance for Miles, catching up on overdue rent, and maybe finishing her business degree someday. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, stepping into the modern glass office. The shock of recognition, the receptionist directed Jenna to the corner office. Walked down the hallway, her resume clutched tightly in her folder. When she knocked and heard come in, her heart was already racing with interview nerves. Nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. Blake Harrison turned from the window, and time seemed to freeze. Those familiar green eyes, that same confident posture, Doom, the man who had disappeared from her life 18 months ago when she told him she was pregnant. The father of her son, Jenna. His face went pale, shock written across every feature. She stood frozen in the doorway, her mind spinning. The job posting had listed the CEO as B. Harrison, nothing more. How could she have known? Confronting the past, "I didn't know you owned the company," Jenna managed to say, her voice steadier than she felt. Blake seemed to be struggling for words too. "Please, sit down. I had no idea you were the candidate." The professional setting felt absurd given their history. Jenna forced herself to sit, placing her folder on the desk between them like a shield. "So," Blake began, his voice uncertain in a way she had never heard before, "you're applying for the executive assistant position?" "Yes?" She kept her answer short, fighting the urge to either run or scream. He picked up her resume, his hand slightly shaking. "You've been working in customer service? Event planning experience? Why didn't you finish your degree?" The question hit like a punch. He knew why, or did he? "I had other priorities," Jenna replied coolly. "Like raising our son alone," she wanted to add, but held back. Unexpected honesty. Blake set down the resume and looked directly at her. "Jenna, I don't know if we can work together. Given our history? Our history?" Jenna felt anger rising. "You mean when you vanished after I told you I was pregnant? Told me?" Blake looked genuinely confused. "Jenna, you never told me you were pregnant," her heart stuttered. "What are you talking about? I called you that night. Said I needed to talk about something important. You came to my apartment." Blake shook his head firmly. "I came to your apartment, but your roommate answered. She told me you were out with another guy. Said you had moved on, and I should forget about you." Jenna felt the room spin. "Lisa told you that. But I was home that whole night, waiting for you. I was going to tell you about the baby." They stared at each other as understanding slowly dawned. A horrible misunderstanding orchestrated by a jealous roommate had destroyed everything. "A difficult decision. I was pregnant," Jenna said quietly. "And you never showed up. I called dozens of times. You never answered." Blake ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered well. "I changed my number. I was devastated. I thought you had betrayed me. I took the job offer in New York, tried to forget everything. I had the baby," Jenna continued, watching his reaction. "A boy. His name is Miles." Blake's face transformed with emotion. "I have a son." "We have a son," Jenna corrected. "But I raised him alone. Every sleepless night, every doctor's appointment, every milestone, just me." The silence that followed was heavy with lost time and missed opportunities. An unexpected offer. Blake stood up, pacing to the window. When he turned back, there were tears in his eyes. "The job is yours. You're the most qualified candidate, and it would be wrong to reject you because of personal history." Jenna was taken aback. "Why would you do that?" "Because you deserve this opportunity." "And because," he paused, emotion thick in his voice, "I owe you more than I can ever repay. I missed everything. I should have tried harder to reach you, to understand what really happened." Jenna studied his face, seeing genuine regret and pain. Part of her wanted to refuse, to walk away and protect herself and Miles from potential hurt. But the practical side knew this job could change their lives. "When can I start?" she asked. "Monday, 8 in the morning." Blake hesitated. "Jenna, I know I have no right to ask, But could I meet him? Meet Miles? The first step before Jenna could answer, her phone buzzed urgently. Ruby's name flashed on the screen. She answered quickly. Jenna, it's Miles. He has a high fever, almost 103. I'm taking him to the hospital right now. Jenna's heart dropped. She stood abruptly, grabbing her bag. Which hospital? Children's Memorial. Don't worry, I've got him, but you should come. I'm on my way. She turned to Blake, her maternal instinct overriding everything else. I have to go. Miles is sick. Let me drive you, Blake said immediately. It'll be faster than waiting for transit. Jenna wanted to refuse, but the urgency of the situation won out. Okay, let's go. As they rushed to the elevator, Jenna realized that in the span of 30 minutes, her entire world had shifted. The man she thought had abandoned her never knew about his son. The job she desperately needed was now hers. The baby she had raised alone was sick and heading to the hospital, racing against time in Blake's car. Speeding through Chicago traffic, Jenna clutched her phone. Blake drove with focused intensity, occasionally glancing at her with concern. Tell me about him, Blake said quietly. About Miles? Despite everything Jenna found herself talking, he has your eyes, green with those gold flecks. He just started pulling himself up on furniture. He loves music, always bouncing when he hears a rhythm. Blake's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I can't believe I missed so much. Neither can I, Jenna replied honestly. When they pulled up to the emergency entrance, Jenna jumped out before the car fully stopped. Blake followed close behind as they rushed through the automatic doors. Ruby was in the waiting area, holding Miles, who was crying weakly, his face flushed with fever. Mama's here, baby, Jenna said, taking her son into her arms. Miles immediately nestled against her, his hot little body trembling. Blake stood a few feet away, staring at the child with an expression of wonder and heartbreak. This was his son, the baby he never knew existed. And in that hospital waiting room, surrounded by strangers and the smell of antiseptic, 3 lives began to intertwine in ways none of them could have predicted. The nurse called them back, and as Jenna carried Miles toward the examination rooms, she looked back at Blake. He was still standing there, frozen, tears streaming down his face. You can come, she said softly. He's your son too. And with those words, everything changed. The hospital vigil, the pediatric examination room, felt too small. With 3 adults crowded around the tiny bed where Miles lay, Dr. Rachel Martinez checked his temperature again while Jenna held his small hand. It's a viral infection, the doctor explained calmly. Common at his age. We'll give him medication to bring down the fever and keep him for observation for a few hours. Jenna felt relief wash over her. So he'll be okay? He'll be fine. These things look scarier than they are. Dr. Martinez smiled reassuringly before leaving them alone. Blake had remained silent throughout the examination, watching everything with intense focus. Now, as the nurse set up an IV for fluids, he stepped closer. Can I hold him? His voice was barely a whisper. Jenna looked at Miles, who was already calmer with the medication starting to work. She nodded slowly. Blake approached carefully, as if Miles might break. When Jenna transferred their son into his arms, something profound happened. Miles opened his eyes, those green eyes identical to his father's, and studied Blake's face with infant curiosity. Hi, Miles, Blake said softly. I'm your dad. Monday morning changes when Monday arrived. Jenna stood outside Horizon Tech Solutions again, but everything felt different. She wore her own clothes now, a professional outfit she had managed to buy with the advance Blake had authorized. Miles was with Mrs. Chen, her neighbor, who provided affordable childcare. The weekend had been strange. After leaving the hospital with Miles fully recovered, Blake had asked to see them again. They met at a park, where he watched Miles play on a blanket, soaking in every gurgle and smile like a man starved for water. Now, entering the office as an employee rather than an applicant, Jenna felt nervous for entirely new reasons. Patricia, the office manager, greeted her warmly. Welcome to the team. Blake asked me to show you around and get you settled. The older woman had kind eyes and an efficient manner. As she walked Jenna through the office procedures, she shared helpful tips about Blake's preferences and work style. He's demanding but fair, Patricia said. Took over the company 6 months ago after his father passed. He's been working hard to change the culture, make it more people-focused. Jenna absorbed this information. Realizing how much of Blake's life she had missed, finding a rhythm the first week was intense. Jenna managed Blake's calendar, coordinated meetings, and prepared reports. She discovered he was right about one thing. They worked well together. Her organizational skills complemented his strategic thinking perfectly, but the personal tension was always there, humming beneath the surface. On Wednesday evening, as most employees had left, Blake appeared at her desk. "Can we talk?" Jenna saved her work and followed him into his office. He closed the door and turned to face her. "I want to be part of Miles's life. Really part of it, not just weekend visits. I want to know his routines, his favorite foods, what makes him laugh." Blake's intensity was palpable. "I know I have no right to ask for this, but I'm asking anyway." Ow. Jenna had been expecting this conversation. "It's not that simple, Blake. You can't just jump in and be a full-time parent. Miles doesn't know you, and let me get to know him. Let him get to know me." Blake pulled out his phone and showed her something. "I've been researching child development, reading about infants, watching videos on how to care for babies. I know I have a lot to learn, but I want to try." The earnestness in his voice touched something in Jenna. "Okay, but we take it slow. We build trust first." The truth, revealed 2 weeks into her new job, Jenna received an unexpected message on social media. It was from Lisa, her old roommate. "I heard you're working at Horizon Tech. I need to talk to you about Blake. There's something you should know." They met at a coffee shop downtown. Lisa looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her cup. "I owe you an apology," Lisa began. "A huge one. The night Blake came to the apartment when you were pregnant, I lied to him." Jenna's chest tightened. "I know," he told me. "You don't know everything." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "I was jealous of what you two had. I had feelings for Blake myself, and I couldn't stand watching you be happy together. So when he showed up that night, I saw an opportunity. I told him you were with someone else. Then I deleted all his voicemails from our home phone and blocked his number from calling."
Oh.
The confession hit Jenna like a physical blow. "You destroyed my life. My son grew up without a father because of your jealousy. I know. I've regretted it every day since." Lisa was crying now. "I was young and stupid and selfish. I'm so sorry, Jenna. I just thought you should know the whole truth." After Lisa left, Jenna sat alone with her coffee, processing everything. The anger she had carried for so long had a target now, but it didn't make her feel better. It just made everything more complicated. Growing closer that evening, Blake came to her apartment for dinner. It had become part of their routine. He would arrive around 6, play with Miles, while Jenna cooked. And they would eat together like an ordinary family, except they weren't ordinary. And they weren't really a family yet. "I saw Lisa today," Jenna said as she stirred pasta sauce. Blake looked up from where he was building blocks with Miles on the living room floor. And she confessed everything. The deleted voicemails, blocking your number. She was jealous. Blake was quiet for a moment. Does it help? Knowing that? I don't know. It explains things, but it doesn't give us back the time we lost. Miles knocked over the block tower and squealed with delight. Blake rebuilt it patiently, his large hands careful with the small toys. "We can't change the past," Blake said eventually, "but we can decide what happens next." Jenna brought 2 plates to the small table and placed Miles in his high chair. As they ate, she watched Blake expertly manage feeding Miles while eating his own dinner, something that had taken her weeks to master. "You're getting good at this," she observed. Blake smiled, wiping applesauce from Miles's chin. "I watch a lot of YouTube tutorials during lunch breaks." The office romance question at work. People were starting to notice the dynamic between Jenna and Blake. Ruby, who worked in the accounting department, cornered Jenna in the break room one afternoon. "So what's really going on with you and the boss?" Ruby asked bluntly. "And don't say nothing, because everyone sees the way he looks at you." Jenna sighed. "It's complicated. Is he Miles's father?" Ruby had been Jenna's friend since college and knew the whole story. "Yes, but we're just trying to co-parent right now. That's all. Ruby raised an eyebrow. That's all? Jenna, the man looks at you like you hung the moon. And I've seen how you watch him when you think no one's looking. Even if there were feelings, mixing work and personal life is messy. Add a baby to that equation, and it's a disaster waiting to happen. Or it's a second chance, Ruby countered. Not everyone gets those. A turning point Friday afternoon, Blake asked Jenna to stay late to prepare for a Monday presentation. Most employees had left by 7 when they finished. Thank you for all your help this week, Blake said, stretching. You've made this transition much smoother than I expected. It's doing my job. Jenna organized the papers on his desk. It's more than that. You're talented, Jenna. You should finish your degree. I'd support it. Flexible hours, tuition assistance. That's generous, but I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's an investment in a valuable employee. Blake moved closer. And it's me trying to help the mother of my child who had to give up her education because I wasn't there. The proximity made Jenna's heart race. Blake, we should keep things professional at work. Is that what you want? Professional distance? Jenna met his eyes. The attraction she had felt years ago was still there, stronger even. But so was the fear of being hurt again. I don't know what I want, she admitted. Everything happens so fast. One day I'm a struggling single mom. The next I'm working for my son's father, who I thought had abandoned us. I need time to process. Blake nodded, stepping back. I understand. Take all the time you need. Family integration. The following Saturday, Blake invited Jenna and Miles to his apartment for the first time. The modern space overlooking Lake Michigan was impressive. But what caught Jenna's attention was the corner Blake had transformed, a playpen. Toys, a changing station, everything a baby might need. He had created a nursery space in his home. I thought, if Miles is going to spend time here, he should have his own area, Blake explained, looking suddenly uncertain. Is it too much? Jenna felt tears prick her eyes. It's perfect. They spent the afternoon together. Blake made lunch while Jenna helped Miles explore the new space. Later, they took Miles to the nearby park, and from a distance, it probably looked like any other young family enjoying a weekend together. As the sun set and Miles dozed in his stroller, Blake and Jenna sat on a bench, watching the waves on the lake. I've been thinking about us, Blake said carefully, about what we could be. Blake, let me finish. I know we have a complicated history. I know trust takes time to rebuild. But Jenna, what I feel for you didn't disappear. If anything, seeing you as a mother, seeing your strength and dedication, I'm more amazed by you than ever. Jenna's heart raced. I need you to understand something. If we try this, if we become more than co-parents, and it doesn't work out, Miles gets hurt too. I can't risk that. Neither can I, so we'll be careful. We'll take it slow. But I don't want to pretend I don't have feelings for you. Jenna looked at Miles, sleeping peacefully, then back at Blake. Okay, slow. We'll see where this goes. Blake reached for her hand, and she let him take it. It felt right, like coming home after a long journey. The project's success Monday brought exciting news. The social impact project Jenna had been coordinating launched successfully. Local media covered it, highlighting how Horizon Tech was using technology to connect vulnerable populations with resources and job opportunities. During the celebration in the office, Blake pulled Jenna aside. This is your success, he said. Your insights made this project what it is. You should be the one doing the interviews, getting the recognition. I'm not comfortable with media attention, Jenna protested. Then we do it together, as a team. That word, team, felt significant. They were becoming partners in more ways than one. The evening news interview went well, both Jenna and Blake explaining the project's mission. Watching it later at Jenna's apartment, with Miles playing at their feet, felt surreal. We make a good team, Blake observed, echoing his earlier words. Yes. Jenna agreed, leaning her head on his shoulder. We do. Their hands touched, and they smiled at each other, maybe, Jenna thought. Some broken things could be mended after all. The international opportunity 3 months into Jenna's position at Horizon Tech. An email arrived that would test everything they had built. The subject line read, Partnership Opportunity, London Office. Blake's company had caught the attention of a major European investment firm. They wanted to bring the social impact project to the United Kingdom and were offering substantial funding. But there was a condition. They wanted Blake to oversee the London launch personally. For a minimum of 1 year, Blake stared at his computer screen, then at Jenna working diligently at her desk through his office window. Miles had just turned 1 year old. The birthday party the previous weekend had been a milestone for all of them. With both sets of grandparents meeting for the first time and Miles smashing his first birthday cake with enthusiastic joy, he called Jenna into his office. "We need to talk about something important," Blake said, gesturing for her to close the door. As he explained the London opportunity, Jenna felt her stomach drop. Just when they had found their rhythm, when Miles knew both his parents, when she and Blake had carefully begun exploring their relationship again, the universe was throwing another obstacle in their path. "Difficult conversations? How long would you be gone?" Jenna asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "A year? Maybe 18 months? But Jenna, I don't want to make this decision alone." Blake moved around his desk to stand closer to her. "You, me, and Miles? What are you saying?" "I'm saying come with me. Both of you. We could make it work in London. They'd provide housing, and you could continue coordinating the project from there. Miles would experience a new culture, and we'd be together." The proposal was both thrilling and terrifying. Jenna had never been outside the United States. Moving to another country with a toddler seemed impossible. "Blake, I can't just uproot our lives on a maybe. What are we exactly? We've been dating, sort of, but we're not married. We're not even officially living together." "Then let's change that." Blake took her hands in his. "Not the marriage part, not yet. But let's live together, really try being a family. If it works in Chicago, we'll know we can make it work in London." The trial run 2 weeks later, Jenna and Miles moved into Blake's apartment on a trial basis. Her small studio went to a subletter, providing a financial cushion and an escape route if needed. The first few days were chaotic. Miles, disoriented by the new environment, had trouble sleeping. Jenna and Blake navigated the awkward intimacy of sharing space, figuring out bathroom schedules and closet allocation. But gradually, as they found their rhythm. Blake would wake early with Miles, giving Jenna an extra hour of sleep. She would prepare dinner while he gave Miles his bath. They took turns with the bedtime routine, reading stories and singing lullabies. One evening, as they sat on the couch after putting Miles to bed, Blake brought up London again. "The firm needs an answer by the end of the month," he said carefully. "I want you to really think about this, Jenna. Not just about us, but about what you want for your career. This could open doors you've never imagined." Jenna had been thinking about little else. "I'm scared," she admitted. "What if we get there, and it falls apart? Miles would be in a strange country away from everyone he knows. What if we don't go and always wonder what could have been?" Blake countered. "Besides, Miles is one. He'll adapt easier now than when he's older." Meeting the families the following Saturday, both families gathered for dinner at Blake's parents' home in the suburbs. His mother, Margaret, had been initially shocked to learn she had a grandson, but had embraced Miles with grandmother fervor. Jenna's parents, Tom and Ellen, had driven up from Springfield, curious to finally meet the man who had unknowingly fathered their grandson. The dinner table conversation was polite, but loaded with unspoken questions until Margaret finally addressed the elephant in the room. "So, Blake tells us you might be moving to London. That's quite an adventure." All eyes turned to Jenna. She glanced at Blake, who gave her an encouraging nod. "We're considering it. The opportunity is incredible for the company and for my career growth, but it's complicated with Miles." Tom, Jenna's father, set down his fork. "What does your gut tell you, honey?" Jenna thought about her father's question. Her gut said she was falling in love with Blake again, that the family they were building together felt right, and that maybe taking a risk was exactly what they needed. "My gut says that playing it safe hasn't always worked out for me. Maybe it's time to be brave." Ellen reached across the table to squeeze her daughter's hand. "Then we support you. All of you." The hospital scared 2 weeks before they needed to give a final answer about London. Miles spiked another fever. This time it was worse than before. accompanied by a rash that sent Jenna into panic mode. They rushed to the emergency room at midnight. Blake drove while Jenna sat in the back with Miles, who was lethargic and burning up. The diagnosis was Rosella, common in toddlers but terrifying for parents. Miles needed to stay overnight for monitoring. In the hospital room, with Miles sleeping fitfully between them in the bed, Jenna and Blake held hands across their son's small body. "I can't lose him," Jenna whispered, tears streaming down her face. "He's everything you won't. We won't. Look at him. He's a fighter, just like his mom." Blake's voice was thick with emotion. "What if something happens when we're in London? What if he gets sick and we're far from family? Then we'll handle it. Together. That's what parents do." Blake wiped her tears gently. "Jenna, we can't protect him from everything, but we can make sure he grows up with both of us there, building a life full of love and adventure." By morning, Miles's fever had broken. The relief was overwhelming. As they checked out of the hospital with discharge papers and their sleepy toddler, Jenna realized that fear had been holding her back from fully committing to their new family. The decision back at the apartment, with Miles napping off his hospital. Exhaustion, Jenna found Blake on the balcony overlooking the lake. "I want to go to London," she said simply. Blake turned, surprise and hope mingling on his face. "Are you sure?" "No, but I'm sure about us. I'm sure that Miles deserves to grow up with both his parents. And I'm sure that I don't want to make decisions based on fear anymore." Jenna moved into his arms. "Let's do this. Let's be brave together." Blake held her tightly. "I love you. I should have said it weeks ago, but I love you, Jenna. I never stopped. I love you too. Even when I hated you, I loved you." They stood there, holding each other as the Chicago skyline glittered in the afternoon sun, making promises for a future that finally felt within reach. Preparations and goodbyes the next month was a whirlwind of preparations. Visa applications, apartment hunting via video calls, saying goodbye to friends and family. Ruby threw Jenna a going-away party that ended with tears and promises to visit. Patricia helped train Jenna's replacement at Horizon Tech while coordinating the logistics of the London office setup. The older woman had become a mentor and friend. "You're going to do amazing things," Patricia told Jenna on her last day in the Chicago office. "And if that boy doesn't treat you right, you call me and I'll fly over there myself." Jenna's parents came to help with packing. Watching her mother carefully wrap Miles's favorite toys, Jenna felt the weight of what she was doing. "Mom, am I being selfish? Taking Miles so far away?" Ellen looked at her daughter with wise, understanding eyes. "You're giving your son something precious, a complete family. That's not selfish. That's love." The flight to forever on a cold February morning, Jenna, Blake, and Miles boarded a flight to London. Miles, delighted by the airplane, kept pressing his face against the window, pointing at clouds and making his baby sounds, somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. As Miles slept between them and the cabin lights dimmed, Blake turned to Jenna. "No matter what happens, we're in this together now. A real family." Jenna looked at their son, peaceful in sleep, then at Blake. The man who had come back into her life in the most unexpected way. Real family, she agreed. New Beginnings London welcomed them with rain and gray skies. But their new flat in Kensington was bright and spacious. The company had provided a furnished apartment with a proper nursery for Miles, complete with views of the park. The first weeks were challenging. Miles struggled with jet lag. Jenna found British grocery stores confusing. Blake worked long hours setting up the new office. But every evening, they came together as a family, sharing stories of their days, helping each other adjust. 3 months into their London adventure, and Jenna enrolled in an online program to complete her degree. Blake had insisted, and for once, she didn't argue. The company covered the tuition, and she studied while Miles napped. The London office thrived. The social impact project expanded beyond their expectations, helping thousands of people find employment and resources. Jenna became the face of the program, giving talks at conferences and appearing in media coverage. One evening, arriving home from a particularly successful presentation, Jenna found Blake and Miles building blocks in the living room. Miles had grown so much, his vocabulary expanding daily, his personality emerging strong and joyful. "Mama." Miles ran to her on wobbly toddler legs. "Look, Tawa." She swept him up, covering his face with kisses. Blake joined them, wrapping his arms around both of them. "I have something to show you," Blake said, pulling a small box from his pocket. Jenna's heart stopped. "Blake, I know we said we'd take things slow. I know we've only been here a few months. But Jenna, you've been my partner in every way that matters for a long time now. I don't want to wait anymore." He opened the box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. "Will you marry me? Will you make our family official?" Miles, not understanding but sensing the importance of the moment, clapped his hands. "Mama, Dada." Tears streamed down Jenna's face as she nodded. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." The wedding they married 3 months later, in a small ceremony at a historic London chapel. Ruby flew over to be Jenna's maid of honor. Blake's brother served as best man. Both sets of parents made the journey, grandparents cooing over Miles in his tiny suit. As Jenna walked down the aisle, she thought about the journey that had brought her here. The pain of abandonment, the struggle of single motherhood, the shock of that job interview, and every moment since that had led to this day. Blake's eyes filled with tears as she reached him. Miles, held by Margaret in the front row, babbled happily throughout the ceremony. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, the small gathering erupted in applause. Blake kissed Jenna with the passion of a man who had almost lost everything and found it again. Coming full circle a year after moving to London, Jenna gave birth to their second child, a daughter they named Grace. Miles, now almost 3, was fascinated by his baby sister. Gently patting her head and bringing her toys, the London project had become a model for other cities. Jenna had completed her degree with honors and was now being courted by non-profit organizations and tech companies for leadership positions. Blake's company had grown exponentially, but he had learned to balance work and family in ways his father never had. One Saturday morning, they took the children to Hyde Park. Grace slept in her stroller while Miles chased pigeons, his laughter ringing across the green space. "Do you ever regret it?" Blake asked, his arm around Jenna's waist. "Leaving Chicago? Taking the risk?" Jenna watched their son play, thought about their daughter sleeping peacefully, and looked at her husband with love that had survived heartbreak and distance. "Not for a second. This, right here, is exactly where we were always meant to be." Blake pulled her close. "I spent so long regretting what I thought I'd lost. I never imagined I'd get a second chance, let alone that it would be better than anything I originally dreamed." Miles ran back to them, breathless and joyful. "Dada, Mama! Come play!" They joined him on the grass, the 4 of them together. A family forged through misunderstanding, separation, and ultimately, a love strong enough to overcome it all. As the London sun broke through the clouds, illuminating their little group with golden light, Jenna Morrison Harrison knew with certainty that sometimes the most unexpected paths lead to the most beautiful destinations. And sometimes, the job interview that changes your life gives you not just a career, but everything you never knew you needed: a partner, a family, and a second chance at forever. Epilogue. 5 years later, in a spacious home in the London suburbs, Jenna prepared breakfast while reviewing notes for her presentation at the United Nations. She was now the CEO of Global Impact Initiative, an international nonprofit she had founded with Blake's support. Blake appeared in the kitchen, carrying 4-year-old Grace on his shoulders, while 7-year-old Miles followed, arguing passionately about why he should be allowed to join the school robotics club. "Mama, tell Dada I'm responsible enough," Miles pleaded. Jenna kissed her son's forehead. "You are responsible. You can join the club, yes." Miles pumped his fist. But Jenna continued, "You have to maintain your grades and still have time for family dinners." "Deal. Deal." Miles hugged her before running off to tell his little sister. Blake wrapped his arms around Jenna from behind. "Remember when we thought life was complicated? You mean when I showed up to interview for a job and found the man I thought had abandoned me? That feels like a lifetime ago." It was a lifetime ago. A different life. Jenna turned in his arms. This life is so much better. Through the kitchen window, they watched their children playing in the garden, and Jenna silently thanked the universe for that shocking job interview that had brought her not just employment, but a family, a career, and a love story that proved second chances were real.